Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Come on in, have a seat. My name's Tim White, and I'm the chairman of the International Committee. I'm very pleased to have you here at our workshops this morning at NRB. And welcome to Streaming Wars, Episode 10, Taking Control of Your Distribution Strategy. How do you get your content seen in a chaotic and cluttered market? How do you choose what platform to use? Do you start your own? How do you navigate the video on demand maze and maximize reach and revenue? Well, our host, Jedi Master Jared Geesey is here. I'm sorry he doesn't have a lightsaber, though. Very disappointed, actually. Jared Geesey is a technologist, digital marketer, film distributor, entrepreneur, and leader. His experience includes launching the first TVOD and EST digital streaming platform exclusively for the faith and family market at christiancinema.com. Write that down. Including software product management and content licensing. Over the past 15 years, he led the development of app ecosystems spanning from mobile to OTT streaming devices. You're going to explain what OTT is, right? We had to look it up. To powering major online retail as well as powering an SVOD platform in South Africa. He helped pioneer social TV premieres on Facebook Live, reaching over 14 million people for one nonprofit's weekly program broadcast. And in 2020, like that's just a couple days ago, launched the Geesey Group to work directly with producers, distributors, and nonprofits to develop digital distribution strategies for their content. Jared, welcome. Francis, welcome, Jared, this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim. It's so good to be with you all here at NRB. It's a great place to connect with friends each year, and I always enjoy my time. And I'm happy to share with you just some of the things that I've been learning. The world revolves around change. So every day it seems like we have new platforms that are launched and some chaotic market in history. How do you stand out when Netflix alone by themselves, they're spending $17 billion on content this year? When you have 500 hours of content being uploaded to YouTube every minute of every day. So in the world of the streaming wars where major studios and the tech companies, they're all launching direct-to-consumer streaming businesses, is there room for your content? Is there room for our stories? The reality is that streaming is now in the U.S. is the primary source of video consumption in the U.S. 57% of people have at least one streaming service in the U.S. now. So globally, it's not far behind around the world. So if you don't know how your audience is watching, they're not going to see your content. So smart TVs and OTT apps, an OTT stands for over the top. It's just basically a way of talking about devices like Apple TV and Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Those are all, and then a lot of the smart TVs have it built right in. You don't need a secondary device any longer. But 70% of the way video content is consumed is now directly on people's televisions. Even it's not as much on the mobile devices. It still is, of course, even though the bulk of internet traffic is mobile. OTT content is preferred to be watched on people's television. So making content is only half of the job. It's not a if you film it, they will come kind of a world. So the reality is most independent creators don't have that dream, Netflix deal where you just get to make content and then someone else worries about how to get it out there in the world. So abdication of that responsibility is not an option if you care about reach and revenue. So the reality is you have to be closely involved. And I know so many artists just want to do the art, and I get it. But we're in a world where everyone's a publisher, everyone's a distributor, everyone's a broadcaster. And that's a really cool thing that you can do that, but there's also a responsibility for it. And so there's some mindset shifts that are happening that come with that capability that we're going to talk through today. So with so many platforms and distribution models and distribution companies to choose from, how do you choose your unique path through this tangle of film marketing, television marketing, and distribution, OTT, SVOD, all the fun. We're inventing new phrases every day, and just to keep up to date on it with your dictionary of what people are saying can be a challenge. So I want to move away from. I think it's easy to get overwhelmed. I have a session I do where I go really deep, but I've seen too many times at conferences where you're in meetings and I do that session and people's eyes glaze over because it's too much data. So what I want to do is just simplify things a little bit And we're going to talk about two things because I think it's really key. You can get buried in the technology, and the technology is just tools. But if you allow the technology to overwhelm you, and because it's shiny, or there's all these things and experts coming at you, you're gonna miss. So two things: mindset and method. So first, let's talk about number one, mindset. What matters? What are the key things that are going to make an actual difference in the distribution strategy for your content? So number one is alignment. Collaborative partnerships. So many licensing and distribution deals don't end up being true collaborative partnerships, but they're rather about abdicating responsibility for getting revenue and reach. You need to look for partners who understand your desire for making the content and its purpose in the world. Make sure you're aligned there, especially with so many of you creating very purposeful and meaningful content, and it's missional. So you need to find partners that understand why you're making it and who you're making it for and why you want to reach them. It's not just dumping another product into the marketplace. The other thing that you need to do, this is marketing 101 stuff, but it needs to be said. A, you need to define and know your audience or audiences. It can be multiple. And B, you need to define and know the plans that you have to reach them. This isn't something that you can abdicate. Creating content without doing this is like having a child and then abandoning them for someone else to raise. And you wouldn't think of doing that as a parent, but your creative children that you're putting out there in the world, you need to think about how you're going to raise them. And so it doesn't mean you have to do all the work. There's a lot of people and businesses and organizations and experts that can come along and help you and guide you. And you can have some amazing partnerships. But knowing who your audience is and how you're going to reach them is something you need to be involved in. So how to avoid abandoning your movie or TV baby and be a good, responsible content parent. What else should you pay attention to? Performance-based strategy matters. And what I mean by this is that, not that you need to be doing just public performances, but in the shift to streaming, a lot of the focus has been on opportunistic licensing deals. And opportunities are good, but marketing strategy, audience targeting, and a performance-based distribution still matters. So you want to look for deals, and what I mean by performance-based strategy is you're looking for deals where the more people watch, the more you earn. And sometimes with the streaming, we're so excited to just get these opportunistic licensing deals, we're missing it. So if you think about your distribution deals like a dinner plate, that you're going to eat something and you need a healthy meal, opportunistic licensing deals or flat fee deals need to be the gravy. They're not the meat and potatoes. Unless it's a giant, if you get a giant flat fee that covers your budget, then congratulations on your vat of gravy. But they typically need to come last in terms of your release timing. And I'll tell you, anyone who says otherwise is probably being paid a percentage of those flat fee deals. So in general, we need to still pay attention to release window strategy. This is what the distributors have been doing for years. And if you're going to be involved in distribution, you need to understand why do the studios do release windowing, and you need to exercise that same kind of strategy and thinking when you are releasing your projects. So in general, the long-held wisdom is you want to maximize the revenue from each window. That's been the strategy for a long time. Some people are playing with simultaneous releases. You'll hear about day and date things come and go. But often that's pushed by platforms that just want you to get your content. They don't really care about your distribution strategy or profitability. It's more about their platform. So just be aware of that. So there are 4 digital business models, and this fits into the windowing. It's really important to see this. So sometimes I think the filmmakers get caught up in the technology and miss the business model. But there's only 4 digital business models. You can mix and match them and create, variants, but at the core, there's only 4. You can buy it, you can rent it, you can subscribe to it, or you can watch ads on it. And then I don't count free as a business model, but those are the 4 things. And maybe there's a blend, and the subscription includes commercials or not. You're seeing a lot of innovation and testing, but fundamentally, those are the 4 things. So if we're applying the model or the awareness of needing to pay attention to release windows, and we know there's only 4 digital business models, what is a construct for how we should think about we should move through those digital business models in general with your content. And fundamentally, these are sorted in order of revenue per view. Now, this is not saying that you're going to make more money necessarily from the buying, from the electronic sell-through of your content. It's just showing that the amount of revenue per view is highest there, working your way down to rental, subscription, and commercials. And these prices are varying, and that's market conditions that are happening. But in general, that's the philosophy of, this is why movies are in theaters first, for example. You're paying per person, per ticket. You get into home entertainment, it's per household or per family. And so you get down to the AVOD, advertising VOD commercial spot, and now you're being paid per thousands of eyeballs that are seen, the cost per thousand. So say you've got that going on and you're navigating that. The other mindset that really matters, that we need to pay attention to, is owning your audience. This is true now more than ever. So you've got all the studios, Disney Plus, Peacock, Apple TV, HBO Max, and more all coming there. And it's significant, not just because the studios are doing streaming. What is significant is that the studios are owning a direct customer relationship, and globally, mind you. And that's the real battleground and the key thing and the real gold that's coming out of the streaming wars. Now, instead of going through 5 layers where it's the retailer selling something to you, you as a content owner can have a direct relationship with your customer. So let's talk about some of the old thinking or paradigms we need to let go of as we move into that. From a distribution perspective, I'm convinced that the old mindset is a product-based thinking model. That's the DVD on the shelf, the product in the bookstore, the book or the product in the e-commerce store. And of course, there's many products and we need to sell products. So I'm not anti-product selling. Don't misunderstand me. I'm talking about mindsets here. People don't tend to think of movies only as products to be purchased ahead of time anymore. In an on-demand world, they've all been trained to be able to just, I hear about something and I want to see it, and I should be able to go see it just about on any screen and any place and format I want. So the new economy for content is all about attention. How are you getting their awareness? How are you getting their attention? Like Netflix says one of their main competitors isn't all the studios, it's Fortnite. And I can tell you from the way my kids play, they would prefer video games over movies any day. So it's an attention-based economy. So the new mindset is about direct audience relationship. It's one of earning people's attention while maintaining as direct a connection as possible. Now, it doesn't mean you don't work with other people, but you need to be building your brand and building your audience connection from the beginning, not just when the movie's ready. And I can tell you, if you're doing this in pre-production or if you're building it around a nonprofit or a mission or an organization, the content is about helping celebrate the cause that you're about. Okay, so why? Another mindset. What matters here? Why you're working with a distributor matters versus just saying, well, I work with a distributor because that's what you do. So if that's part of your plan to work with a distributor, that's great. So there are some great distributors out there, and I've worked with most of them. But it's key that you start with why. Have anyone seen the Simon Sinek talk about start with why? Apply that same kind of thinking to how you're putting your content out there in the world. So here's some key reasons to empower reach through a distributor. So the first one, and these are some of the reasons that people typically have done this. They pay advances or they bring marketing dollars. Number 2, they have marketing or PR expertise. They've got all the ability to tell people about the content. And 3 is they have access and expertise in certain distribution channels, home entertainment, foreign, all those kinds of things. So those are the core that's why you go to distribution. So I know I'm stating some of the obvious here, but I think it's important as you're evaluating because it's easy to get lost. So if the distributors you're evaluating don't do these things, or you're not sure how they do those things, or which ones they do well, then you need to keep looking or only give them the rights that they are good at and not give them worldwide. So it's helping you manage and control that. So you need to ask yourself, are we signing a distribution agreement to abdicate our responsibility to be involved? Or are they empowering us to collaborate and generate additional reach and revenue that we couldn't get on our own? So remember that child abandonment analogy. So if you think of as a distributor as a nanny to raise your children for you, don't be surprised when your nanny quits and your children are horrible. The right mindset is to collaboratively partner with your distributor according to that marketing and that target audience plan that you've defined and worked together, that you've already done that. So you are responsible for reaching people, and the distributor is going to help you amplify your efforts. But they don't just make it happen magically. And I think if you film it, they will come. That's just such a trap I see happen again and again. Okay, so those are some of the key mindsets. So number 2, we want to talk about some methods or approach questions. Now that you've got the right mindsets, what are some key methods and approaches you need to decide upon? So here's some key questions that you and your team should think through and be clear on as early on as the project as possible. Number 1, what are your goals? Just very basically, are you trying to raise awareness for a cause or a nonprofit or a ministry? Were the funds donor-based? Or do you have investors expecting to be paid back? So it can be a combination of both of these, but this can affect your strategy and how you get it out there. Number 2, what's most important to you? Is it most important to own your audience for ongoing engagement, or partnering for more reach with less control, or combined? So there's no... what I often tell filmmakers is there's not you feel like you're hacking your way through a dense jungle, and you're thinking everybody else is driving down the freeway just beyond you. And I'm telling you, everyone is hacking their way through the jungle. The distribution for your content is as unique as your content is. And so that's why these questions and mindsets are really key to think through. So this is the next question and method is a slightly different variant of the last question, but with the focus on digital sales. Do you want to sell and rent and have people subscribe directly to your content on your own branded platform? There's so many OTT software options out there. There's more now than ever before in the last 12 months. It's like there's just an explosion of tools that are available for filmmakers. So how do you choose the right one that fits for you? You've got stuff that's like the bicycle all the way up to the Ferrari and everything in between. And they have different purposes and goals. So that evaluation is very important, because if you pick a platform, you might be with it for 3 to 5 years. And so you got to choose wisely. If you're looking for a platform and you end up buying a white-labeled YouTube model, but you're trying to sell transactionally, it's never going to be aligned to your goals. Second option is to, of course, place your content on other platforms. And you can work through aggregators like Bitmax and FilmHub and others who can place you on iTunes and Vudu and Amazon and Hulu and all those places. So, and maybe it's a combination. Again, that windowing strategy. So the next question is about helping you hone in on the audience and define if you are going after a niche audience or a broad audience. And I will say, I think most people here are targeting niche audiences, but I think it's important to bring up as a discussion for your project. And especially consider international audiences. Can your story travel to another culture and another language? And that doesn't mean you're just getting it subtitled or having it dubbed. I mean, does the story itself resonate? And sometimes that requires connection and relationships to find out, and not just assume, I'm going to take it around the world, because maybe something in your story will actually prevent it from resonating with a certain community. So if you can figure those things out earlier on, it will impact the reach of your content. So, in closing, these are the key areas that define when you need help. When do you need to find help to walk through these mindsets and methods we've talked about today? My hope is that with some of these tools and concepts, your projects can be surrounded with the scaffolding of experience, that you can be guided with purpose and meaning, and focus on creating excellence in crafting your execution. So my mission in all of this is to help creatives, to help artists put more goodness, beauty, and abundance in the world. And I hope that's what your goal is too. So if you need help working through any of these mindsets or method questions, I'll be happy to talk with you further. But I think we have a few minutes left for some Q&A if there's any questions about it. Yeah. What's one of the main factors that makes a production fail? In terms of reaching audience, or what? Define failure to me. Yeah. I heard someone yesterday and was having a conversation with a friend, and they said, it's really hard to make a good movie. It's also really hard to make a bad movie. It's hard both ways. And so I think that a lot of it is just following in footsteps that you are assuming. And so I think that's why we want to ask yourself these questions and figure out who and why you are making it. And you need to know what that is, because otherwise you're just guessing. And if you don't know where you're going, you're definitely not going to get wherever you are. So there's a million reasons. It's a miracle when a movie is made. It really is. So there's not. I don't think there's a single reason. There's so many things that can go wrong. So no, it's good. Somebody else, yeah.
Would you say that creators for niche audiences find the sort of one-size-fits-all distributor? And what would be sort of the take for lower budget films that are under 10 million, whatever, maybe under 5 million, finding one distributor, or are they usually needing 3 or 4 if they're thinking international as well as domestic?
Again, this is that So the question is, I'm trying to summarize here for everyone who can't hear what you're saying. What is the size of distribution, and is the tendency to either carve up or go with one distributor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of one size.
Yeah.
What's kind of the average of how many distributors people need if they're looking both for domestic and international?
Yeah. In terms of if the question is what is the average, again, there's not a. I think part of the thing is letting go of that. That's the freeway you think is in the jungle on the other side. It depends on your content and the story and who your audience is and where they are. And so you're picking a distributor not based on the idea of I need 3 distributors. You're saying, well, who is my audience and who is the best one to help me reach that audience? And so when you're talking to them, you're evaluating and collaborating to say how can we reach an audience together. So if you come with just like I've got my story idea, which is a good thing. You need to have your story idea, and it needs to be good, but it's not enough because your story needs to be for someone. And so the distributors are going to help you reach that someone. So it's working backwards, all those pieces. So I don't think there's a simple thing. Typically, the higher budget ranges you go, you may have less distributors. The bigger budgets, you tend to, you get into more the major distributor land where they're picking that content up. It depends on how much you're going to be involved. So, but philosophically, it's not about the number of distributors, it's about who you're trying to reach. And if one distributor can help you do that, great. If they can't, or if your goal is much more about using content to grow a ministry or an organization, then you're not really looking for a distributor. You're trying to use that content to tell the story about your organization. So, I don't know that there's a simple cookie cutter answer is, I guess, the short answer. Anybody else? Paul. So you're an independent filmmaker. You don't want to deal with this stuff. I'm happy to talk with you and help you navigate some of those things. There's things that I would do on that. I am not a distributor. I come alongside content owners and help them make strategic distribution and marketing decisions earlier on, kind of essentially like a producer of marketing and distribution. To help you make some of those decisions. So, yeah, happy to talk to you further.
10 years ago, what would you have done differently than you do today?
10 years ago. Boy, the game was completely different 10 years ago. We were still... I might have even had a few VHS 10 years ago, but it was the DVD. The DVDs were the thing. So I was just talking to someone about the DVD era, and that's some of that product-based thinking versus the relationship thinking. And like on Christian cinema, for example, I think we had 30,000 keywords at a time we were bidding on. And so it was this strategy of it's like having your fishing line on the side of the lake and trying to get the fish to come to you. And we had 30,000 poles lined up with bait. And the problem is, from a DVD perspective, is there's just less fish looking for DVDs now. And the other problem with that is it's of an SEO strategy. Is you're waiting. Somebody has to create the awareness of your title, of your story, for them to know to go type it in. So how do you reach the people that have no idea what your content's even about? And I think that's where a lot of social media marketing is amazingly effective, because you can really laser target. The analogy I was using is, if you're comparing to the fishing line, it's like getting on a boat and having fish radar, and you go right to the school of fish and drop your hook right in the middle of them. So now that we have those kind of tools, that's one of the things that enables, I think, content owners to be involved and not have to just go, well, I don't have the ability to sell myself, so I need to sell my content myself, so I need to find someone else. And I think that's just not true anymore. It's very easy to do some of these things, and you're going to have to be involved. So I think it's about accepting that you need to be involved and walking through these mindsets, and so that you can to find your audience. So yeah, that's how it's changed. Catherine. Yeah, so thank you for that question. The question is, at what point do I tend to get involved with filmmakers? It's much more earlier on. I like to be involved even at the script phase, and then moving into brand development phase. There's so many things that you are not aware of when you're so focused on creating the content. You are not thinking about the audience, all these questions. And so having someone to come alongside you to help you think about your brand development. I can tell you from selling movies to consumers for 20 years that you're not selling the movie online, you're selling the promise of the movie. And it's the trailer and the key art and the title and the synopsis. That's what people are buying. That's what they're engaged with. When how many of your people just browse through Netflix for a half hour and then never watch anything? Anybody done that? What you're looking at is the brand. You're looking at the brand they put in front of you to decide if you want to watch the content. And it's that decision that people are making in a split second. And so we spend all this time developing the content, and we never spend time developing that thing that they're going to look at in 3 seconds and make the decision. And so those kinds of decisions and things for building your content are where I come along. As far as what budget you want to pay for that from, I'll leave that up to you. But that's typically when I engage. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Jared. God bless you. If you have questions for Jared, we just ask you to just go outside the curtain. We have another session starting in 15 minutes. And so please make sure you connect with him, trade some business cards. Jared, thank you again.